It's East meets West. You know him as the host of Talking Politics and Religion Without Killing Each Other, and the second most important person to hail from Freehold, New Jersey, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Corey Nathan.
And he is the 7-time Emmy-winning broadcast journalist, born and raised in beautiful Los Angeles, who has not stopped dancing in the streets since his LA Kings have gotten Artemi Panarin, Rick Garcia, ladies and gentlemen.
What's up, Corey? How's it going?
I'm sure you're celebrating about that trade, right? You got a guy who's going to score like the 50 goals between now and the end of the regular season.
Is this the next Wayne Gretzky? Will this be the next great one? Will this bring a Stanley Cup back to Los Angeles?
Well, first of all, so to clarify, Gretz didn't win a cup in LA.
He did not.
So I think,
the Kings have won a cup. So
they have. They
will they get another one?
3 in the early 2010s. So that's the question. I think it was the 2, right? But then, but Gretz did go to the final against Patrick Waugh-led Canadiens team. Am I remembering this correctly?
Yeah, of course. I covered those teams.
Yeah,
Patrick Waugh.
I always used to hang out with
I used to hang out with
McSorley.
That was Marty. Yeah, I used to hang out with Marty McSorley.
Oh, is that right?
I travel with him. Yeah,
that curved stick did them in on that series. Do you remember that?
I do remember it. He was in those days they called those enforcers. They were the goons.
The goons.
And you could fight in those days. And I remember having dinner with Marty McSorley, and he was part of the deal that sent Wayne over here. And literally his job was to protect Wayne Gretzky. He would tell me before whatever the game was that was coming up, hey, that's the guy I'm going after. It might be, hey, I'm going to be going after Tim Hunter today. He knew that it was just one of those things where everybody knew who the goons were, and they knew, hey, you touch my guy, and I'm touching you. And that's
was he a good guy? Like he seemed like
he was great.
Oh man,
he was great. Those guys. I've mentioned this before. That the guys that are in the most violent sports or positions. I don't know why those are the gentle giants, man, but they are easygoing and calm. The tennis players and the golfers could be a pain in the butt, but these guys, Marty, just a sweet guy who's. One of my favorite stories, and I know that you weren't opening the show for this reason, but one of my favorite stories that I ever did as a sportscaster in Los Angeles was I interviewed Marty in the penalty box. Oh. We sat in the penalty box. I did the interview from there.
How's that?
The team had just done a skate around. That's usually what they would do the day of a game that night, right? So the Kings did their skate around. I went to interview Marty after he was done practicing. We went in the penalty box, and another team came on the ice who they were playing that night. I have no idea who they were playing that night. And during the entire interview with Marty, guys were flipping pucks into the ice, like right at head level at him, right? While we're doing the interview. And he said to me, I said, man, Marty, I get the impression these guys really don't like you. And he said, hockey's so different than other sports. He said, other sports, you go out and try to kill each other on the field. And then, when it's over, you go have dinner. He said, we don't really do that in hockey unless we're on the same team. The purpose of doing the interview in the penalty box is because I think he spent, when we added up the time, almost a year of his life was spent in the penalty box. So, it was such a treat to do that in there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, those guys are a fun group of guys. I always called the hockey players the consummate gentlemen. And we're going to talk about hockey in a moment on the show because, with the gold medal winning teams that we had from the U.S., I thought it'd be fun to chat about some of the perks that go along with winning a gold medal. So
how about
we'll
that?
get into that in a moment. First,
that right there, by the way, is a professional tease. I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes.
I've been able to do that now and then. So, I wanted to begin with. I've said this to you before, and what I'm doing right now is I'm looking up something right now because I had purposely decided. I mentioned to you how often on the East Coast they are so glass half full on the East Coast at the beginning of a season, especially for the Mets, for example. Here we are, spring training. They are so glass half full until the glass gradually fills up with water and then with ice, and then eventually the glass shatters all over the place. And that's right around the time the team starts failing, and it's time to fire the coach and to move the team and to do all kinds of stuff. There's always this great disappointment that hits this team. We're going to talk a little bit about the Mets. There was a headline on the story that I sent you, by the way, in preparation for this show. It says first title in 40 years, question mark, inside the Mets winter makeover. Okay. You didn't get to see the headline. You only got to see the story, because this is the time of year everywhere, where, especially in New York, in the Big Apple, where the writers are on the bandwagon for the New York Mets. This is an article in ESPN.com written by Jorge Castillo talking about, okay, could this be it finally for the Mets? But they do this every year, Corey, for as long as I can remember as a sportscaster. This time of year, every year, it's the Mets season until the wheels fall off. I give you the floor.
Okay, so first of all, being from a long line of initially Brooklyn Dodgers fans and then New York Mets fans, it's hope and bitterness, hope and bitterness. It's kind of like sugar and salt, sugar. Like I wouldn't know what to do with myself if I didn't have a little bit of both. So I come from a long tradition of hope and bitterness. Okay, so let me answer your question straight on. I am not just hopeful, but my hope is based in substance on all the improvements that the Mets made this offseason. And remember, 2025, granted, their last 4 months of the season was abysmal, a complete disappointment. But the year before that, 2024, they went to the playoffs. They were one of the best teams. The last 4 months of the season, they were arguably the best team in the major leagues. Now, looking at 2025, what did they address? I think that they improved all over. They improved defense. They improved their pitching, both starting and the rotation. And I believe that they also improved their offense. I'll tell you how. If you'll give me a little runway, I'll break it down for you. Okay. Defense. On the infield, you have to admit that if one looks objectively at Simeon at second as opposed to McNeil and occasionally Beatty, they improved up the middle on the infield, as well as Luis Robert in center field. Everywhere up the middle, they improved. Now, are there question marks at third? Defensively speaking, to first and third? Yes. However, if you give me Bo Bichette over basically the main three that they had playing third base last year between Vientos, Beatty, and who's the third? McNeil.
Let's do this. I'm going to go down the depth chart for the team. I'm going to make it easy on you. That way you can comment on who the players are.
Sure.
And who would you say the standard bearer is in Major League Baseball?
The LA Dodgers, that's fair.
Okay, so the Dodgers. That's a fair statement, right? All right. This is not necessarily the batting order, but we'll just start off at first base. Okay.
Well, Freddie Freeman is a future Hall of Famer, and I think he's still playing close to, if not at the top of his.
All right. So you want to at least be close, right?
Yeah.
To have a shot. All right. Where does Polanco stack up against Freddie Freeman?
You're not going to put them in the same league. I'm not going to pretend.
Okay.
However, I think that there are two improvements. Where we lost at first base is home run thump. However, I do think that there will be a total of 30 plus home runs out of the first base position. And more importantly, in terms of run prevention, we're going to have a better, between Beatty and Polanco, I think it's going to be a better defended position at that corner.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I'm not, and again, I'm not. This is not to. This is just to have a fair discussion about it, right? So you got Freeman versus Polanco. You give the edge to the Dodgers. And by the way, it doesn't have to be that today, at this moment, that all these Mets players are better than all these Dodger players. You just want to be in the game, right?
Yeah.
You want to be in the game. So you got Polanco, you got Freddie Freeman. All right. Second base for the Dodgers, though he's going to be hurt and out for a while, is Tommy Edman. Okay. You've got Marcus Semien, right?
Yeah. So Marcus Semien is arguably one of the best defensive second basemen in the league and has been since he moved over there from shortstop. Now, he's had a couple of off years offensively, but I like his floor. If he gives me a 700 OPS, I'm happy, especially depending on where he's hitting in the lineup. Okay. If he's our ninth best hitter in the lineup, that means we got a pretty strong lineup. So I'm okay with that.
So he had 230 last year's OPS, 669. He had 15 home runs. Okay.
Yeah, I think he's going to play a little bit closer to the back of his baseball card. Not to say he's going to hit, MVP
Yeah.
level, but he's going to come back to the back of his baseball card.
Might be an even matchup because Edman hit 225, 13 home runs, his OPS 655. Okay, so I think you could call that a wash. Is that fair?
A wash with a little bit of an edge on the defensive side of
To
the ball.
Simeon. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And now it's shortstop. You got Mookie Betts
Yeah.
and Bo
So
Bichette, right?
no. Bo Bichette's playing third. So
They're going to have him at third base. Okay, so shortstop would be Lindor. Sorry.
yeah, Francisco Lindor.
Uh-huh.
Now,
Yeah.
there is a little bit of a question mark. Lindor started throwing today, so I think
Mm-hmm.
he is on track to be ready for opening day. However, I think it's fair to say that he'll probably have a slow start, but at the end of the year, you're going to look up and this dude's going to be a 30-30 player like he has been for almost the last 5, if not 10 years.
Okay.
So offensively and defensively, this is an underrated shortstop, arguably one of the best. Now, Mookie Betts, also a Hall of Fame
Yeah.
level contributor offensively, solid defensively. If Mookie is your shortstop, listen, he's no slouch. I'm not going to say that, but I give
Yeah.
Lindor is arguably one of the top 2 or 3 shortstops in the entire league.
Yeah, I would give the edge to the Dodgers on that from a hitting standpoint. You're right. Defensively, the Lindor's pretty good, but Mookie doesn't kick the ball around. So I go edge to the guy who's definitely a Hall of Famer in Mookie Betts. But the fact is you're in the game. Now, here's where I got ahead of myself, and you guys have a clear advantage. Bichette at third. For the Dodgers, it'll be Max Muncy.
Yeah, so Bichette, first of all, the best thing I love about Bichette is he's a clutch hitter. And last year, one of our bugaboos was the fact that we were 0-70 something going into without a lead going into the 9th inning. So when you have not just Bichette but Polanco as just historically clutch hitters, runners in scoring position, and especially 2 outs and runners in scoring position, that's what I love about Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette defensively wasn't one of the strongest shortstops in the league, but moving him to third plays on his strength, really strong arm, and gives him a little bit less wiggle room. He's more of a twitchy ball player in the field. So I think it's going to play to his strengths. I'm not nearly as worried as some about how he's going to transition from shortstop to third. I'm pretty happy about that, and I for all those reasons, I give the edge to the Mets at third base.
Well, that's an easy transition. I think it's a little harder to play shortstop than it is to play third base. I know it's the hot corner.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of guys will tell you have a little more time over there. You're diving for balls. You get a chance to stand up, dust yourself off, and throw the ball to first base. So I think that. But either way, that's a clear advantage. I think Bichette over Max Muncy. Okay, let's go to the outfield. Soto, no question. If he's healthy and playing. Relatively normal. He has the edge over Teoscar Hernandez. Fair enough?
Yeah. One of the best 2 or 3 hitters in the league behind Shohei and Judge, I think. But also moving him to left field, it minimizes his exposure defensively, especially the construct of Citi Field. Still has a relatively strong arm, but his arm strength is going to play up in left field versus right field. So yeah. He is not a liability in left field like a lot of people say.
Okay. Now, here's where things are going to get interesting. We go to center field. Andy Pages for the Dodgers, 25-year-old center field who really had his first full season last year, wound up hitting 27 home runs, 272 batting average, a 774 OPS. The center fielder for the Mets is Luis Robert Jr., and he hit 224 with 14 home runs. I think the edge goes to the Dodgers on this, though we haven't seen either one of these players, put 2 or 3 seasons in a row to kind of give it. I guess the jury's still out would be what I'd say on both of these players.
Yeah, listen, they're both elite level defenders. So the floor for Luis Robert is he's going to be a liability at the plate, but he's going to be an everyday contributor in the field to the degree that we had decent defense in center field, but they were liabilities at the plate. So I think if we see the Luis Robert of June, July of last year, even some semblance of that over the course of a full season, I'm not saying he's going to compete for the MVP, but this guy has at least 25 home run pop in that bat. So let's see if he can have a full 6 months of solid contribution at the plate. And then if that's the case, then I'll give the nod to Luis Robert. But that means I'm putting a lot of ifs in that equation. I don't like having a lot of ifs in my equation. So I'll let you have that one if we need to.
let's go by what we know. All right, now how about right field? The Dodgers just brought on board Kyle Tucker. His OPS
Who?
841. That's why they
Who'd you
wanted
bring
him.
on? I don't know that name.
I think did he pass on the Mets or did the Mets,
That name means
pass on him? I'm
nothing
not
to
sure.
me. What are you talking about?
It hit 22 home runs last year and batted with a 266 average.
Yeah,
Dodgers have a big advantage there, would you say? Who's
yeah,
your
there's a
right
clear
fielder?
advantage. Although I love Carson Bench. If you've watched any of him from last year in Double-A and Triple-A, and now he's already off to a hot start in spring training. He's an elite athlete in the field. He could play. He could be a solid major league center fielder. So having him in right is definitely an upgrade in right field for us. But yeah, listen, Tucker's Tucker.
No major league stats though to speak of. So in all fairness, that's advantage. Check mark into the Dodger column. Now, here's where I think you guys are in trouble. Here's where I think you're in trouble. Starting lineup. I'll go through the Dodgers starters.
I'm glad you skipped over catcher because although I'm happy.
I'm sorry. No. You're
core,
right. No. Let's go. Let's back
you
up.
have
My
another
apologies.
future Hall of Fame.
Got ahead of
myself.
So Francisco Alvarez is your catcher. Batted 256 last year. Had 11 home runs, 32 RBIs for the Dodgers. And by the way, we know there's more with catchers than statistics. Will Smith only hit 296 last year with 17 home runs. His OPS was just under 1,000. Do you want to brag about your catcher?
No. I will say though that when Alvarez got the call up in July, his numbers the last 2 months of the season were really solid. I'm not saying that they're as good as Will Smith, even that 2-month sample. So Dodgers definitely have the advantage there, but that's like, I think it's an unfair fight.
Here's what I'm saying to you. So far, you got guys who you're hanging a lot on potential, right?
Well, no, I mean,
if he does this, if he
there.
does that.
That's only in a couple of
league?
positions, and we know but there's a high floor. Even the ones that I'm saying, if there's a high floor on Luis Robert, there's a high floor on our catching core. We know they're elite level throwing runners out. We know they're elite level calling games for the pitchers. The most important thing for catchers. I'm just not saying. I'm not going to sit here and say that our catching core is better than Will Smith. That's just that.
All I'm saying is so far in the batting order. If you look at the Dodgers, catcher Will Smith, Freddie Freeman, Tommy Edman, Max Muncy, Mookie Betts, Teoscar Hernandez, Kyle Tucker. Really, the only question mark on that roster is Andy Paez, who had a very good first full season, right? So, again, the team you're chasing, this is the team everybody's chasing, not just the Mets. So it's just not picking on the Mets, but we're just trying to say, hey, are you there? All right, starting lineup. I think that's a big problem for a lot of teams. The Dodgers have Yamamoto, Blake Snell, Shohei Ohtani.
Are we not talking about the Mets lineup? Did we
Tyler Glasnow and Roki Sasaki could be their fifth starter, though there are guys in the minor leagues that are coming up. Now, this is your chance to sell your starters, okay? So Freddie Peralta, good pickup, right? And then where do you go from there?
Are you kidding?
You got Sean Manaea, right?
Whoa. You skipped over the
Senga, maybe?
No, the number 2 is Nolan McLean. He's arguably the best.
Okay.
Arguably
the best what?
Well, the best. He still has rookie status, so he's like favorite to win Rookie of the Year. I don't want to jinx anything.
Oh, he does still have rookie status. Okay.
He has rookie status, and man, that was a great sample size. Month and a half last year. What was it? 8 starts or 6 starts? Either way, that dude's for real. So I'm very happy with Nolan McLean as a number 2, which means Clay Holmes, David Peterson, Sean Manaea are your 3, 4, 5. Sean Manaea Manaea is your 3, that means you got a really good number 1 and number 2. Clay Holmes is your 4 or 5. That means you got a really good 1, 2, and 3. And Kodai Senga as your 6th. Are you kidding me? That guy could give us 100 innings of elite level pitching. He's not going to give us 200 innings, but maybe 100.
I love you. I gave you 4 number 1s. 4 number 1s that the Dodgers have, and you're selling me on a guy who pitched for a month and a half.
I'm not pretending that our rotation is as strong as the Dodgers, but I am very happy. Put me up against 29 other teams.
All I'm saying now, this is the purpose of this exercise, is the wonderful optimism And everybody has a right to feel this way because everybody's
Listen.
0-0, right?
I
Everybody's
get it.
undefeated.
If we're talking about if we're
Are
sitting
you
here talking
there?
about 2010 and the best signing was Jason Bay, then yeah, you got me. But I mean, the architect of
Okay.
this offseason did some masterful work. I'm very happy improving our defense, outfield, infield. I'm very happy upgrading our offense in very specific ways, especially in the clutch and runners in scoring position, 2 outs. Very happy with, and there's some under the radar parts of the trade, like the Freddie Peralta trade. Nobody's talking about Tobias Myers. That dude can be, if that dude's our seventh starter and our swing guy out of the pen, we're looking really, really strong. So I don't think this is empty optimism. I think there's substance there to sink a Mets fan's teeth into.
And who's the closer for the Dodgers, by the way? I can't remember.
I
Can
don't
you
know.
help me out with
It
that?
doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
Edwin Diaz.
Well,
All
okay,
right.
so I'll give you that.
Listen,
I'll give you that. But
I love your optimism. That's all I'm saying.
if you ask me, do you either get to have Edwin Diaz or Devin Williams and Luke Weaver? I think I'd take the two because they're going to give me twice as many innings. They're both more reliable. They're consistent from year to year. Whereas Edwin Diaz, every other year, is for one reason or another is not quite as good. Like, listen, if he has an elite level year, he's arguably the best closer in baseball.
Yeah.
But he's not always that guy every single year. That's why I'm happy with Devin Williams and Luke Weaver.
I'll tell you what. And again, only because you're chasing the team that just won it, right? That's for every team, so it's not just the Mets. And so that's why I think it's a good exercise to kind of on paper go down the list. And the question becomes, who is this season's Toronto Blue Jays, right? We weren't expecting it to be Toronto, and there they were. Will it be, somebody we haven't heard of who's all of a sudden going to step up? That remains to be seen. I'm glad that made you feel good, though. Do you feel good?
I feel great.
All right. So let me put you in your spot one more time. Let's talk about the NBA. I love how you're like, hey, we got to talk about the Knicks-Spurs. I mean, that's a matchup of the two. That could be the NBA championship, the final. And I thought to myself, what? People usually say that when you're like talking, okay, number one is playing against number one, right? And
well, I mean,
the Knicks aren't even in the first two spots.
They're not in the
Eastern
first
Conference.
two spots, but I do like how they're positioned. Go ahead. Sorry.
When we talk about you can please cut in any time. When we talk about head to head, a World Series glimpse or a Super Bowl glimpse, I don't think people are mentioning the Knicks.
Here's why I brought it up though.
Yeah.
Because the Spurs were unquestionably the best team in the NBA in February.
At the moment.
Moment, yeah, but they played 11
team.
games. They won all 11 games in February, and they won them all decisively.
They're on a hot streak. Yep,
they're on a hot streak. And the Knicks, it's not like the Knicks are in the play-in position. They're the third best team by record in the Eastern Conference. So the fact that the Knicks happened to beat the Spurs for the first team that's beat them in 12 games, that indicated to me that this isn't just theoretical. This is a less than 0% possibility that they'll end up meeting in the finals. That's why I thought it was worth looking at both teams and seeing where they stand.
NBA championship preview. I'm not so sure about that. Here's my concern for your team in this regard. Streaky.
Yeah.
Would you agree that's a great way to describe the Knicks? Streaky. They had a 4-game losing streak in the middle of January. Then they won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games in a row, right? Won an 8. And then had another 4-game losing streak in December. So streaky, good way to describe them. Then they win a game, then they lose a game, then they win a game, then they lose a game. Do you feel like this team and everybody's trying to assess, how good are we? Are we going to avoid the play-in games? Who are we going to match up against? How good are you feeling about the Knicks? Forget about just the San Antonio win. Think about them overall.
So I think it's fair to say that they are streaky. The losing streaks of 3 or 4 games in a row that they lost toward the beginning of the season, I think part of that is just getting used to a new system under the new coach. But then in a way, I appreciate the fact that they came out of January and rattled off a bunch of wins in a row because they faced some adversity and figured out how to make the adjustments that they needed. In particular, Karl Anthony Towns. I was so disappointed with his performance this year, but you could say that since they came out of that losing streak in January, he's been playing some of his best ball of the year. Not only that, the way that this team is different than last year's team that went to the Eastern Conference Finals is I think they have a much more dynamic bench. They have, I mean, you got Robinson coming off the bench. He could be Defensive Player of the Year coming off the bench. That's how good he is as a rebounder and on the defensive side of the ball. You got Jose Alvarado. What a great pickup. This guy is a thief. He's an absolute thief in the night. Solid backup point guard behind Jalen Brunson. Shamet is a sniper. That dude is a shooter. And Diawara as a 9, he as another guy coming. And Kolek is a fan favorite. So I'm very happy with this. This is a really well-rounded team that I'm pretty happy with.
Let's do this then. Let's go. You want to talk about beginning of the season? Let's talk about the last couple of weeks of this team's wins and losses. Your losses come against Detroit.
Okay.
Number one team in the conference.
You don't need to go any further than that. Wait. I'm not making an argument for the Knicks. But the Detroit is the biggest reason that I'm concerned because they not only lost to Detroit, they lost all 3 times to Detroit so far this year in embarrassing fashion. So as much as I'm optimistic and like this lineup or this roster, man, Detroit, even more so than Boston, which has Jason Tatum coming back. I guess we'll talk about that in a second. But Detroit worries me just because of the way the Knicks looked against them all 3 times this year.
Let's talk about the other teams because these are the teams you're going to have to go through to get to the NBA Finals, right? Yeah. All right, let's skip Detroit. You may not even have to play them, right? I mean, the good thing that could happen to the Knicks is somebody else knocks off Detroit.
Yeah.
You played Boston. You beat Boston the last time you played them. You lost to Cleveland. Those are teams that you're going to have to face, right? That's part of your journey,
right?
Getting through the Eastern Conference. So, and then as you mentioned, Tatum gets healthy, comes back at some point. The rest of the way, going through the rest of the season, you got Oklahoma. I'm just looking at the tough ones, right? You got Oklahoma City and Denver on back-to-back games, not back-to-back nights, but back-to-back games. Lakers, I don't think there's any reason you shouldn't be able to win that one. A lot of these easier teams on the roster. You have a nice soft schedule about midway through. Got another game against Oklahoma City, and then beyond that, Boston, and that's it for the rest of the way. I think the Knicks have a good path. You could be in a good spot to draw a lower seed. Having said that, who worries you? Let's forget about Detroit for a minute. Who worries you because you may not play them in the opening round, right?
Right. So Celtics worry me depending on how Jason Tatum looks, if he's able to get the rust off. But if Tatum comes back, they're championship caliber. Cavs, not so much. I'm not, again, I don't want to.
Why don't you worry about Cavs? They're nipping at your heels right now. They could overtake you before the season's over.
I'm not saying that they're a weak team.
On the team now.
But I think when push comes to shove, they're not in the same league as the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference. They haven't proved until otherwise. Until they prove otherwise, I'm not buying the Cavs are in the same league as Detroit, Boston, and New York.
Okay. Well, there you have it. Again, NBA Finals preview. I think that's a bit much, but they've got a schedule I think that works in their favor the rest of the way through that allows you to work on things to see if you can iron out some of those inconsistencies. And we'll have that discussion again in another couple of weeks when we see how much further they've gone.
Let's see what happens in that first game against OKC. I'd love to see if they show up as mighty as they did in the game against the Spurs.
That will be a good test. I know that Oklahoma City in the West is a team to beat. San Antonio, again, we've both talked about how young that team is. They're growing before our very eyes. This may not be their year, but they will be around for a while.
Yeah.
And then, Denver's still no slouch. I mean, that's a team you have to keep an eye on.
Any team with Jokic, you can't count them out.
Yeah. So
and
the West
Minnesota
is still stacked.
too. I'm not.
Minnesota, I agree with you.
Anthony Edwards, Gobert. They have a couple of former Knicks on there that are really contributing. Yeah. Julius Randle, DiVincenzo, the woebegone Nova Nick. I don't go to sleep on Minnesota.
We'll see how that all plays out. I wanted to talk about, the perks of the trade. If you're a professional athlete, number one, you get all kinds of recognition and what comes with that, the fame and the fortune, the ladies,
Yeah.
if you're a male athlete. Jack Hughes, he's all over the place now.
Who makes missing teeth fashionable?
Right? I mean, right? He looks great with his teeth missing. He was on Saturday Night Live, made a quick little appearance in that recently. There was a rumor out that he was marrying a billionaire heiress, an Indian billionaire heiress, and he and his people have been going out of their way of trying to deny that. But they've also linked him to several other. Well, I guess nowadays influencers are considered celebrities as well, and
Yeah.
so he's been linked to I think Tate McRae, the big pop star as well. He's a handsome guy, charming guy. It kind of is the perks of the trade, but that's always been the case in sports, right? I mean, I'm trying to think of all the professional athletes who had Joe Namath, right?
Joe
Right?
DiMaggio. Joe DiMaggio.
Joe
Marilyn
DiMaggio,
Monroe.
Marilyn Monroe, right?
Yeah.
Right. So kind of the perks of the trade. I mean, think about it. If you could be a professional athlete, what sport and what position would you want to play?
Oh, I didn't know you were going to ask me that. Well,
It's easy for me then. I'll tell you what. Okay, go ahead.
This is a no-brainer.
Yeah,
Curling.
I think it is.
That's my sport. Curling.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, name a position in curling. Yeah.
Actually, in all seriousness, I would love to play second base for the New York Mets. I think there's still hope for me yet, baby.
Okay. Yeah, for me, quarterback, an NFL quarterback. I mean, think about it, the Tom Brady's and and all these guys, and Josh Allen and and all these guys. Namath. Namath was hanging around with his mink stole, and
that's right. Of course, you're going to be quarterback or shortstop or center field or a shooting guard for the Knicks or something like that. But listen, guys that are barely 5'7" on a good day when the wind's blowing right, don't dream about playing for the Knicks. So that's why I'm saying second base.
Okay. So it could have been hockey for you, right?
Could have been. Yeah, plus I was bar mitzvah just like Jack Hughes was. So, again, there's hope for me yet.
Could have been hockey for you. I know that a lot of these stories are coming up about Puka Nacua, as he is blown up for the Rams as their wide receiver, and he's being linked to actresses and influencers and things like that. Tiger Woods' dad was really unhappy when he started dating before he got married, because Tiger Woods' dad, felt like, Tiger was going to lose his focus and it might change them. And here's the funny thing about Jack Hughes. He's a New Jersey Devil, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, that's right.
They're not even in the top part of the rankings of the conference, right?
They're having a decent year. I think they're going to end up in the playoffs. Yeah, especially with him coming back.
Well, everybody goes to the playoffs in the NHL.
No, well, the Rangers aren't going to the playoffs. So.
Anyway, so and by the way, that'll lead us, I hope you don't mind, that'll lead us right into Pop That Culture. You ready?
Let's do it.
Pop That Culture.
Listen, I know you're not excited about this stuff. I love these sorts of stories. I didn't even know that Disney had a roller coaster. Disney's Hollywood Studios in Florida had a roller coaster that was sort of a tribute to the rock band Aerosmith. For the last 27 years, you know where Aerosmith's from, right? Talk about
Boston.
East meets West, Boston, right?
Yeah,
a lot of great bands from Boston, right?
Oh, yeah.
I know that you come from one of the great areas for music, out there in Jersey, but Boston, they're right up there, man.
They are.
They've had some great artists come out of there. So Aerosmith, the band, there was an attraction there that starred the band Aerosmith for 27 years. They are being replaced, my friend. That roller coaster and Aerosmith is being replaced by the Muppets.
I know. I love it. I don't mind.
You don't mind?
Taken
Doesn't
Lori
bother
the kids? Did you guys ever go to the East Coast one, the Florida one?
We've never been to any of the East Coast ones. Did you do Disney Florida?
We did. In fact,
Disney
we stayed
World?
we stayed at the hotel. I forgot what it's called, but there's like a whole what do they call it? Safari. Right outside the door. So any given morning, there are giraffes,
alligators,
sliding glass door.
There literally are alligators in some of the hotels out there at Disney World. Yeah. No, we prefer not to have the alligators, so we're Disneyland veterans out here on the West Coast, and really get a lot of enjoyment out of our local theme park. I consider those of us on the east, and then those in the southeast, of course. What about you had Coney Island in the northeast? Anything else that came close to Disneyland or Six Flags or any of those parks?
Oh yeah, well, we were literally 15 minutes from Six Flags Great Adventure, Jackson, New Jersey, and I actually worked there for a summer. I think my brother worked there too, but I had a special job. I was part of the team that was refurbishing antique Coca-Cola machines. So
wow,
yeah, I had quite a specialty. Yeah.
What does that entail, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, part of it is sometimes it has to do with the paint. Sometimes it just has to do with the insides of it. Trading out some of the inner workings, the engine machine things.
Yeah.
I was under strict supervision and pretended that I actually knew what I was doing.
Strict supervision, yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like a fun gig.
It was a fun gig because I got into the park for free that summer. So it was quite a date that I was able to bring some I was going to say lucky ladies, but I was the lucky one that anybody chose to go out with
them
me.
that. Yeah. And did they have carnivals as well out there? I mean, is Coney Island they have like carnival barkers out there? Anybody out there?
Yeah. So my parents, the summer that I was born, and for about 3 or 4 summers on both sides of it, they actually worked right by Nathan's, the famous Nathan's. And no, it's no relation. Right? Yeah. They had a photo button business. So yeah, they were right there, right where the single A team for the Mets is playing the high A team, the Brooklyn Cyclones. So they were there. But I'm trying to think if we ever got like a carnival setting up a tent at the Freehold Mall or anything. I can't remember off the top of my head, but we did have.
I just love the colorful. Go ahead.
We did have the Freehold Raceway, which is a horse racing track right there by the famous circle, one of the most famous traffic circles in Jersey. So occasionally there'd be big events there, especially around July 4th and other times of the year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't.
I asked about the carnival barkers because I love all your ushers in the East Coast, at the ball games, Bear here.
Yeah, bear here.
What's he selling?
Bear here. Yeah.
Oh man.
Good stuff.
Listen, that's it. I know you're pumped up. You got your Mets hat on. The glass is half full. It's spilling out of the glass. And I look forward to our conversation when the glass shatters and pours out all over the table and the tears start streaming down and you want everybody fired and everybody cut and all kinds of trades. Bring back Ron Swoboda. I can see it now. I can see it now.
Give me Doc Gooden, Ron Darling, Rick Aguilar. Nah, forget Rick Aguilar.
You want Strawberry back? You want Strawberry back?
Strawberry,
you can have them. Yeah.
I could still name that whole team. For God's sake.
You got Piazza. Who else do you
Sid
want
Fernandez.
from some of those other? Yeah, Sid Fernandez.
It was
Man, look at that.
Yeah.
Corey, listen, anything to add? We are out of time, my friend. Anything else you want to?
Do you like it? So I kind of opened with that reference to the Kings. Do you like your chances getting into the playoffs and making a decent run?
I don't. I think it was a good deal. I mean, it's a great deal anytime you get a player like that.
Yeah.
I think, by the way, Kings just fired their coach. So, I mean, how good can things be? I don't have optimism. I'm the opposite of you. I'm glass half empty, right? As much as I like to talk about my Dodgers or my Rams or my Lakers, until they prove to me, I'm not an apologist for my teams. I never have been. I'm not an apologist for my players. When they suck, they suck. And when the teams are bad, they're bad. They got to show me first, right? And while we're able to talk about how good the Dodgers were on paper or are on paper, they're coming off the back-to-back World Series. I look at this as a whole brand new thing, man. It's like you can't live in the past with these teams. So, Kings are not in a great place, but for me, it's starting to feel like, all right, well, maybe next season, maybe we'll get a new coach, we'll build around this guy and see how it goes.
Now see how it goes. Yeah, you're better than us, though. Rangers aren't even getting into the playoffs. So,
but I'm glad we got to talk about the Marty McSorley, one of my favorite people in all of sports, when he was a member of the Kings and when it was okay to have an enforcer.
Yeah,
they don't talk about it anymore. It needs to be clean and
they have
safe
some of
and
those
no
fights on
fighting
YouTube. You got to check out some of those
Oh my
fights. It's
gosh.
classic brawls, man.
Listen, I'll leave you with one more McSorley story.
Okay.
Where it was Kings were in the playoffs at that time, and again, these are the Gretzky years, and you are right, they did not win a Stanley Cup with the great one, but they became instantly respectable, right? And there they were in the playoffs, and the goaltender Kelly Rudy was part of that team, and McSorley and Gretzky, and there we were. And after one of the games, McSorley said, "Hey, why don't you come meet us? We're going to go have a beer in Manhattan Beach." The Kings loved hanging out in those days in Manhattan Beach. They may still hang out there for all I know. And there we are in a bar in Manhattan Beach, probably about half a dozen, 6 or 7 of the Kings players grabbing a beer. A fight breaks out at the bar, like literally at the bar. And Marty, he kind of gets up. It has nothing to do with him. He doesn't know anybody. Little by little, he starts creeping. Can't resist, right? I right away, I step in front of him. I said, "Hey, you're in the playoffs, dude. This has nothing to do with you. I suggest you get out of the bar and go home, because this isn't going to bode well for you."
Yeah.
And it's one of those, hey, once a fighter, always a fighter. It was almost like a saloon kind of a bar fight too, where chairs are being thrown and all kinds of stuff was breaking loose there. So, yeah, those guys those guys know how to have fun. They know how to play hard, man. I have nothing but the utmost respect for hockey players. Because first of all, they can do something I can't do, which is ice skate.
That's right. Yeah. Ice skate at however many miles an hour and handling a puck and fighting on top of it. That's why I love
incredible athletes.
Yeah.
Incredible athletes, and most of them unbelievable gentlemen. So it was fun to talk about that. Listen, we are out of time. I'm Rick Garcia. He's Corey Nathan. It's East meets West. Thank you so much for joining us.
And don't forget to follow us, rate us, and review us, and tell a friend. Let everyone know you can find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you get your favorite podcasts. This is fun, Rick.
All right. Good to see you. We'll see you next time, Corey.
See ya.
Baby got